Yo, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the video on the channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all of these Cold War guns within Cold War Zombies and ranking them from S to D tier. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now that we're more or less done with the entire Cold War cycle and I have unlocked Dark Matter, I feel like now is probably the best time to rank all of these weapons from S to D. And of course, as well, don't forget that these are all in my opinion, so if you don't agree, make sure you let me know in the comments what you think should be higher or lower, and let me know why as well. Kicking us off with the Milano SMG, this is personally one of my favourite SMGs in the game. Although it is quite the average weapon, I do tend to use it if I'm going for an SMG, so for that reason, guns will move around as more come on, so they won't be the final tiers here, but for the Milano to kick us off, we're going to leave it in A tier. Next up, we have a classic in the MP5. Again, one of my favourite weapons, purely because of the nostalgia this gun provides, as well as being a very good gun with quite low recoil if you have the right attachments on it. For that reason, we're going to put it in the same as the Milano with the A tier. Next, we have the LC10, which is our first DLC weapon, but another SMG. I can't say I've used a lot of this. I haven't actually unlocked gold on it, but when I have used it, I've had quite the average experience, so for that reason, we're going to leave it in B tier. Flying through this now, we got the AK-74U, another classic from older games. Personally, one of my favourites in the older games, but for this, it's quite an average weapon. For that reason, we're leaving it in B tier. Next, we got the MAC-10. Again, this is quite a fast fire rate for its class. I didn't get this gold, as it is a DLC gun. For that reason, again, another average experience. We're going to leave it in B tier. The less said about this one, the better, really. Unless you're using it for mini-bosses, snipers are trash. Next, we got the KSP-45. I didn't get this gold when unlocking Dark Matter, as obviously you only had to do 4 SMGs. And it's a 3-round burst SMG, which in my opinion is just trash. We'll stick it in D tier. The Bullfrog has been one of Treyarch's personal favourites this year, clocking in with over 25 different blueprints. Personally, again, it's another average experience for me. I did get this gold when getting Dark Matter. Pretty good gun. Kept me going till around round 30, as did all of these in B tier. We'll stick it in B tier. Next, we got the OTS-9. Personally, I haven't unlocked it, so for that reason, I'm just going to put it D. Don't really take any notice of this. It might be a good gun. I haven't tried it. I can't rank it. Can't even lie. I have zero clue what this gun is. Next, we have the all-time classic, the 1911, the original pistol for zombies. Unfortunately, it's not the greatest in Cold War. It will keep you going through the rounds, so I'm probably going to put this at the bottom of B tier. The Magnum, as much of a cool gun as it is, I'm going to have to put it C tier. It wasn't great when I was using it, and overall, just a bit of an average experience, but not enough for a B tier. Next up, we have another classic in the PPSH. It's been in a lot of previous games, and for me, this was actually a very enjoyable experience with the Vanguard Pre-Order Mastercraft, so for me, I'm putting this A tier. Next up, we got the M60, another one which has been in previous games, not one that I used to get Dark Matter, however. I've used it a little bit when I've got it out the box and stuff like that, but it's not a great gun, let's be honest. C tier. Next up, we got the Diamatis. These are a personal favourite of mine when they're dual-wielded up, both in Outbreak and in normal round base. This is a very good gun. This is A tier for me. Next up, we got the Stoner, and unlike the M60, I did use this when getting Dark Matter, and it was actually pretty average to be fair, but it was better than the M60 when I pulled it out the box. Did get me to round 30 quite a few times while getting Dark Matter, so for that reason, like the rest, B tier. Next up, another classic, we got the AK-47. Honestly, another average rifle. Got me to round 30, any round really. Pretty good. Okay, next up we have a melee weapon in the basic knife. This is actually pretty good in getting high rounds. It can do damage up to quite a high round. For that reason, let's go like top of A tier maybe. I'm actually going to drop the Milano down to the bottom of A tier. I think with what's coming up, this probably will drop into B tier, but let's see. Also, while we're here and I'm looking through them, let's drop the 1911 down. I think we'll drop this down to here. The same with this one. The rest looks alright. Next up, we got the Sigma, S tier easily. I'm joking, but seriously, again, another average weapon really. I didn't have to use launchers when getting Dark Matter, so I've not really used it an awful lot. It's honestly quite a meme gun, but it's not dreadful when you're using it against mini-bosses, so for that reason, we'll go bottom of C tier. Next up, we got the RPD, which hasn't been in the game since Black Ops 2. I did use this in getting Dark Matter, and it was very decent, so for that reason, we're going to go with B tier. Next up, we got the first DLC shotgun. If you've used shotguns in Cold War, you will know that they are absolute meta. The problems with the Street Sweeper is mainly, up until you pack-a-punch it, the reload speed is absolutely god-awful. So for that reason, we're going to go roughly the middle of B tier. Average gun, but packed, it's pretty good. Next up, we got the kingpin of Cold War guns, the Gallo. Straight away, S tier. The amount of times I've ranted about this gun in any video on my channel is unbelievable. You can go back, watch some of the old ones towards the start of Cold War. I've even done a video on it where I compare the two of the main shotguns. This shotgun is absolutely OP. 21 blueprints, and it definitely deserves it. Next up, we got the base XM4. Honestly, nothing special here. I'm going to put it towards the top end of B tier. Next up, we got the RPG. Similar to the Sigma, very good at taking down mini-bosses, but apart from that, it's nothing special. So it's definitely better than the Sigma, but not as good as the 1911 or anything else in the C tier. Next up, we got the other kingpin of Cold War Zombies guns, the Hauer. Of course, I've got to put it up there. Single fire compared to the Gallo, that's why I think the Gallo does just top it. Community opinions, Gallo is definitely better. My opinion, Hauer's better, but I think both being S tier says enough about these two guns. Next up, we got the Krig. Again, similar to the other assault rifles in this tier list, it is pretty average. So we're going to stick it in the top of B tier. Next up, the FFAR, a gun that I did use to get dark matter, but not one that I remember using that well. For that reason, we're just going to stick it smack bang in the middle of B tier. Next up, we got the QBZ. Again, similar to the XM4, however, the recoil on this is god awful, and for that reason, we're going to put it at the top of C tier. We're also going to swap this pistol round, the Magnum, and put the M60 just above it. This looks like a very good C tier. Next up, we got the first DLC assault rifle in Cold War. I didn't use it to get dark matter. It's the Groza. Not really that familiar with this gun. It's probably very average compared to the other ARs, so for that reason, we'll keep it in C tier. Next up, we have another DLC AR, but I actually use this in getting dark matter. This is very average, similar to the XM4. For that reason, I'm going to put it right next to it in C tier. Next up, with another DLC AR, it's the C58. Not many memories with this gun. I've got it level 29, so I've used it a fair bit, probably out of the box. For that reason, we're going to go top of C tier. Next up, we got the MG82. I used this instead of the M60 in getting dark matter, and after using it, it was very average, similar to the RPD. For that reason, bottom of B tier. Next up, we got a gun that is still usable today and completely carried me through getting all the Easter eggs done for the recent Super Easter egg with the AMP63. Dual wield these up and you will have a fantastic experience. For that reason, we're going to go top of A tier. Next up, we got a few melee tools. We're going to do all of these in one. They are very similar. I think the main difference for these is just the fire rate. The E tool instantly, I'm going to put that at the bottom of A tier. A very good melee weapon with the fast fire rate. Ballistic knife, the fact you can shoot things out of this is always cool, but ultimately I haven't really used it. For that reason, we'll go average. We got the Wakizashi Katana. I remember getting this on the day it came out, or in fact, I think there was a leak where it came out a little bit early and there was ways you could get it. I remember doing it and it was honestly decent. We'll go average B tier. Same with the bat and same with the sledgehammer. These melee weapons do actually have quite a few really cool mastercrafts. You'll see a few on screen now. But ultimately that doesn't really change my ranking of them. I don't know why the knife's here again, we'll leave that out. But that's all the melees, I think that's good. Next up, we got the M79 or the China Lake. This gun is an absolute beast. We're going with like bottom of C tier for this one. Actually, no. On second thought, I've just thought this is actually an alright gun in getting rid of mini-bosses, and is actually fairly good if you're going for speedruns. I know in stuff like exfil speedruns on D Machine, I've seen people use this in the penthouse, and it looks honestly very strong, so I'm going to put this bottom of B tier, as personally I haven't used it myself, but it does look alright to use. Next up, I believe it's the R1 Shadow Hunter. Haven't used this gun, it's probably trash, get it out. And now we're on to the fun part. We got our first wonder weapon, the ray gun. If we were still talking about launch day Cold War, this thing would be absolute top tier. But after the nerf, this is the best form the ray gun has ever been in any zombies. I can say that hands down. I'm not really sure about this one. It's either bottom of S tier or top of A. I think we'll go bottom of S tier. Once we get all these other wonder weapons factored in, this might drop to the top of A tier, but let's see what happens. Next up, we got the DIE and all of its variants. So the base weapon itself, again with speedruns and just general gameplay, this gun is very good. I'd put that honestly above the ray gun. I think the idea that you have infinite ammo with it is definitely a plus. It's obviously used in the Easter egg in D Machine, a very cool addition to the game. Then we got the electric variant, which straight up, it's a very good contender for S tier. Although I think with the other weapons factored, it's probably going to come into an A tier, so we'll leave that there. The ice version of it, again, it's a wonder weapon at the end of the day. It's going to be decent. I think I'd maybe put this just above the knife, but below the amp. Then we've got the Nova variant of it, which is an area of effect weapon, but I quite like this gun personally. I wouldn't go for it straight away if it was like if I had a choice, but I don't think it's awful. I think it sits just below, in fact no, just above the freeze. I think is fair for this one. Then next we have the fire kind of version of the die. I think honestly it's the worst one. I don't think, is it worse than the E-tool? It is. We'll do some more sorting of these tiers at the end, but straight away I'm going to say that the Milano is worse than it, and there probably will be a few more that drop, but let's carry on. Next we have Firebase's wonder weapon, the Ray K47. This was honestly a very good gun when it came out. It still definitely holds its weight when you play the map, but in stuff like Outbreak, where all wonder weapons are in the maps, I don't think this would really carry. It's definitely above the die variants. I think maybe we'll go top of A tier again. It's likely to move. Let's see what happens. No variants for the Ray K, which means we move on to the Cerberus, which is featured in Malediction. I think straight away this has to go to S tier. It's one of my favorite wonder weapons of all time. I think that this variant of it's very good as well. I can't remember the names. This wasn't great, in my opinion, so I think that's going to sit below the Nova variant, or sorry, the electric variant of the die. Then we have the Plasma, which is honestly very decent. It was strong. I'm going to put that there because I remember when I did the Maori Easter egg, I used this variant and it was very good. And there we have it. That's all our weapons put in the tier list. Let's do a little bit of sorting out. I'll come back to you once I've sorted them all out and I'll explain all my choices and why I've moved certain things around. And there is our final tier list, but last but not least, we're going to make this knife the Chrysalax, as it is the only weapon that isn't in this tier list that I'd like to be in it. Notably above these two variants, it is the king of all the melee weapons, especially in Forsaken. We're going to leave it probably about here. I think the Chrysalax is one of my favourite looking wonder weapons in the game, as well as it being very effective in game. So for that reason, we're going to leave it middle of S tier. Now let's move into some of the notable changes. The China Lake being in B was probably a bit of a surprise to some of you anyway, so for that reason it falls into C tier, mainly because it's only really good for speedrunning and for 2-player. I think solo, this is impossible to use to get to have very high rounds, so that drops down to B. Next up in the B tier, you'll notice we have the E-tool moving ahead of the original melee. That's purely because the fire rate's a bit better. We also have the Diamatti moving up a couple of tiers, ahead of the flame variant for the die machine, as well as the PPSH. I do believe that the dual wield Diamattis and the dual wield amps are just absolute class in zombies. Then last but not least, the ray gun tops the list purely because, like I said before, it's the best the ray gun has ever been in zombies. And I do believe that any day I would take the ray gun over the Hauer or the Gallo. So that is our final tier list. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know if you agree with where certain guns are. If you don't, let me know where you would put these guns, like I said at the start of the video. Drop a like if you want to see more tier lists like this. We could do the perks, we could do the maps, we could do anything in Cold War. Let me know down in the comments what you guys would like to see. Thank you for watching, and until then, I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.